everyone. Hi, Rob. Welcome to Security Live.
Hey, Margot.
So Security Live
Back again.
We're back again. This is a show that comes to you live every other Wednesday in the month from 8 a.m. Pacific time. This month, 3 p.m. GMT time, 4 p.m. CET time. And it's split into two 30-minute segments. And we cover AWS security topics, all things security, and we do the show with one of our partners, and we talk about common topics and challenges and themes that our customers are talking to us about in the area of security. And it's a live stream, so please feel free to join in and ask us questions in the chat. My name is Margot. I'm one of your co-hosts. My full fancy schmancy title is Security and Compliance Specialist Solutions Architect. And my co-host, Rob, do you want to introduce yourself there?
Hey, do you want me to use a fancy schmancy title, or I am
fancy? Roll it out. Come on.
I am officially the principal security segment leader for our partner business in EMEA. Basically, I lead strategy for our security partners throughout Europe. So hopefully that makes some sense.
That's more fancy schmancy than my title, quite frankly. This month we were talking about this, right? They've changed the hour, so it's 8 a.m. Pacific time and 3 p.m. GMT time. And then next month's show is going to be different again. So it's completely confusing. I've no idea when the clocks are changing. I've no idea why they're still changing. We talk about Gen AI, generative AI all the time. Can generative AI fix this for me? What do you reckon, Rob?
Very possibly. I think we need to just collectively get together and say we're okay with it being a little bit darker in the mornings for a few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And so now and today we're bringing onto the show someone I'm pretty excited about, somewhat famous, quite frankly, in the AWS world. Somebody that when I say to my colleagues here, oh, I'm getting to talk to Eli Khan from SentinelOne today, they're like, I remember Eli, he's such a cool dude. So this is Eli Khan from SentinelOne, and before SentinelOne, AWS, and before that, Squirrel, which is also very closely related to AWS. But Eli, you can do a better introduction than mine.
Hey there. Hey, everyone. Nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, sure. I'll happy to do a little bit more of introduction of myself. So yeah, my name is Eli Khan. I'm VP of Product at SentinelOne. And I've been here for the last year and a half. Before that, I spent about 4.5 years at AWS. I led the stand-up of AWS Security Hub. And before AWS, and really the way I got to AWS, I started a company called Squirrel, which was one of the early players in applying security graphs to things like threat hunting and threat investigations. AWS actually acquired Squirrel. It became Amazon Detective. And then I shortly thereafter broke off and helped start AWS Security Hub. I started my career in the federal government doing cybersecurity strategy and policy, first at the Department of Homeland Security, and then at the White House. So that's me.
Awesome. Welcome. 4.5 great years at AWS. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I meant to put on
still got the t-shirt.
My AWS shirt. I got my SentinelOne on there.
Yeah, you're wearing black as well. I don't know, marketing or something, like manages this really well. So everyone's wearing black in these shows this month.
Yeah.
Cool. And so you were on with us recently. You were on late last year, and we were talking a lot about Purple and Purple AI and SentinelOne. And in general, actually, I think over the last few shows, in general, a theme in security has been generative AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think when we talked last, Purple was in its very early stages, and now we're getting ready to go GA here in the next few weeks. And we've been beta testing Purple with about 100 customers or so over the last 4 or 5 months, and we're excited to get it out to the rest of our customers. But yeah, maybe just for folks that didn't tune in last time, what is Purple AI? Purple is our new generative AI capability that really streamlines how you use the SentinelOne platform. We're focused initially on simplifying and streamlining threat hunting and threat investigations. And Purple simplifies those processes in a number of ways. One, it allows you to do threat hunting and threat investigations using natural language commands. So you don't have to learn yet another query language to do hunting or investigations. You can just use conversational English to conduct those hunts and investigations. And then we also guide you through the process of hunting and investigations by suggesting the next best question to ask, and also doing summarizations for interpretation of the results of the queries that you do. But that's really the first step of Purple, and then we got a lot of other exciting things rolling out throughout the year.
That sounds really cool. So when you say the next question, can you give us like an example of how that works? Because that's a really big kind of feature that's going to help an analyst in a potentially a fast moving situation.
Yeah. So if you are doing a hunt around like a particular data set, say you're hunting on octalogs, and Purple will suggest initial hunting starting points like show me the machines with the most failed logins, and then as you continue through that hunt, Purple will suggest additional questions. Now, the questions that it suggests are dynamic. So these are not like static, pre-calculated, predefined questions. The questions that it suggests is based on the question you previously asked and the results that come back from that question. So they're contextually dynamic questions. But the types of next questions that Purple might suggest are like, what countries did the failed logins come from? What accounts are failing the most? Things along those lines.
That's really cool. So, and how do you form those questions? Is it purely from the data that the customer's giving you, or is there another model that's built in that's asking, what are other customers asking after this?
Yeah, maybe I'll share a picture. I think that might be.
Go for it. We love the visuals.
And while you're doing your sharing, sorry from my side, I've been jumping on and off like a jack in a box. I'm in the office. You would think the Wi-Fi would serve me well, but apparently not.
No problem. Rob was holding down the fort.
Well done, Rob. I knew I could rely on you.
So, this is our Purple AI reference architecture. One of our key tenets, going back to Amazonian speak, we use tenets here at SentinelOne as well. But one of our key tenets around Purple is transparency. And this is not only transparency in how customers use Purple, like we actually make sure Purple shows its work to help engender trust, but we also are transparent in like how Purple works behind the scenes and under the covers. Having done a number of AI projects over the years, building an AI system as a black box is never a good idea. Like in order for users really to trust the system, they also need to understand how the system works and how it's producing the data that the end user sees. So Purple under the covers is what's referred to as a RAG architecture, a retrieval augmented generation architecture. And so we use this concept of agents, and agents are really trained on different behaviors. So one set of behaviors that we've trained our agent framework on is taking a natural language question, such as show me machines with the most failed logins, translating that question to our structured Power Query language, querying our data lake, which by the way uses the open cybersecurity schema framework, which is developed by Amazon and others.
Yeah. And
then summarizing the results and then suggesting next questions. So that's a set of behaviors that the agent is trained to do. Now, the key to this overall architecture is that Purple is not just like a thin layer on top of a large language model. Instead, we use something called a knowledge base, which is really like a vector database under the covers And we're storing all sorts of knowledge in that knowledge base. So that includes things like our documentation, our blogs, our schema and syntax, open source threat intelligence feeds, commercial threat intelligence feeds, the MITRE attack framework. And so when a customer asks a question, we first go to that knowledge base, which is this like definitive, declarative source of information, and use that to then smartly prompt an LLM model, an LLM.
Mhm.
So here, this concept of prompt engineering, we're actually generating the prompt dynamically based on information from the knowledge base, and then we're using the LLM in the first use case to really take that prompt and then structure that Power Query so that we can properly query our data lake based on that initial question from the user. So, this overall architecture is really important to defend against hallucinations. Like if you start asking questions directly to the LLM, there's a high chance you'll have hallucinations. If you smartly prompt it using the knowledge base, we mitigate that risk significantly. So this is really like, considered state of the art for a generative AI architecture, and the way that we're getting really good results from our initial customers that are testing it.
And what is meant and how do customers use this idea of swappable LLMs? In reality, practicality, what does that mean?
Yeah. So it's swappable from our perspective. We're not the customers themselves are not swapping out LLMs, but we actually use a variety of different LLMs in Purple, and we actually have benchmarked different LLMs, both open source and commercial ones, and are choosing the ones that have the best efficacy and best cost effectiveness for the particular behavior that we're asking the agent to do. So we're using things like Amazon Bedrock and Anthropic on Bedrock. We're also using some other models as well to power this overall Gen AI architecture.
I mean, that's really important. That kind of tallies with our customers' experience as well around LLMs, and there was a search for a period of time for the all-encompassing LLM that would solve all of the security problems, or maybe all of the world's problems. But actually, what customers are getting value from is specific LLMs that can then solve a particular problem really, really well. And then maybe have another language model on top of that will then query those smaller models. But I think it's really cool that you're able to swap those and choose the right tool for the right job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we see it as an architectural advantage, for how we've designed this versus some other things that we've seen out there. Because, it also, look, the space is evolving rapidly. Some of the open source models are getting very, very good. And frankly, we don't want to be tied to a single model. We want to pick the best model for the job. And, from a future development perspective, our general strategy is we're going to enable every feature in the SentinelOne platform with Purple. And there will be different models. We'll even build some of our own small language models for certain use cases.
And something else I really like there, and which I hear a lot about from customers, is this notion of it being regionally isolated. Often when customers are looking at, I mean, there are phrases like data sovereignty and remaining within like particular bounded areas, this notion of isolation comes up a lot. Do you want to explain what that means for Purple?
Yes, it's super important. So you could think about Purple as one, it has its own databases, its own SentinelOne databases, like that knowledge base is a SentinelOne managed database. And we support a variety of different regions. So we're, deploying that Purple architecture into different regions supported by SentinelOne. When we're going out to a large language model to help us construct, say, a Power Query, we're also using large language models that have regional endpoints and regional deployments. So in the case where like we're using something like Bedrock, we're going to a regional endpoint for Bedrock, where Bedrock is deployed in the same region as the rest of the Purple infrastructure. So, none of the data, whether it be data in the knowledge base, queries to the large language model, or ultimately the customer logs in our Singularity data lake, all of that is regionally isolated.
Which is super.
That's super important in today's regulatory environments.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What else do you mean? You touched on hallucinations there. What else do you mean by guardrails against misuse? Guardrails are something as well that comes up an awful lot. I mean, you remember yourself from AWS with AWS organizations. We talk about service control policies and how to create your guardrails. When someone is using Purple AI, what do the guardrails look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different ways in which adversaries can try to compromise an LLM-based system, or just ways in which customers might misuse an LLM-based system. Now, in terms of like adversary TTPs, a lot of those are mitigated because our architecture is not generally exposed to the internet. It's only exposed to authenticated SentinelOne customers. But we still want to protect against things like prompt injection attacks and LLM jailbreak attempts. And these are generally ways in which adversaries or just users might try to abuse the system to extract information that should not be extracted. Like one of the really classic and funny jailbreak examples is a security researcher was interacting with a chatbot, an LLM-powered chatbot developed by Chevrolet cars here in the US. And it's convinced the Chevy chatbot to sell him a $70,000 Chevy Tahoe SUV for $1. And they convinced the LLM to say, not only agree to the sale, but agree to say that it is a legally and contractually binding agreement. No taxes.
Wow.
So that's like a good example of a jailbreak and like a set of prompts that researcher did to like convince the LLM to do something that it really shouldn't do. So, the way that we are guarding against, jailbreak attempts or LLM prompt injection attempts is that we use a proxy architecture that, intercepts any prompts coming into the LLM. And we have a number of different rules and guardrails to really prevent certain classes of prompts or queries to be executed.
Cool. And people are talking about the Chevy story there in the chat, and someone's asking, are we live? Yes, we're live.
We are live. Hello.
Yes, I've already fallen off twice. So if we were live, we would have edited it. If we weren't live, we would have edited that out. So yes, we're absolutely live. So someone's asking, I would assume that we'll see a rise in the LLM in the space designed specifically to break public LLMs.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting use case.
Yeah. I mean, so certainly for LLMs that are, exposed to the internet that anyone can use, there's always going to, just like any internet exposed service, people are going to try to find ways to break it and to extract information to it. So yeah, there's a really cool project developed by MITRE called MITRE Atlas, which is sort of like a corollary to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. But MITRE's been doing a good job of mapping the various TTPs associated with attacking machine learning infrastructure, including LLMs. So I definitely recommend folks check that out.
I remember when you were talking to Ryan last, you were coming into your beta program at that point. And I think you might still be in the beta program, but coming out potentially?
Yeah, we're imminently getting.
You can't say it, fine. But I was going to say, from the beta program itself, given that now some time has passed, we spoke to you at the beginning, now we're kind of somewhat at the end. Any surprising learnings that you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that?
Well, I think one of the big questions that we had for ourselves is, what type of user is this going to be most valuable for? And you talk to different like analyst shops out there, and they get very opinionated. Like, oh, LLMs or Gen AI solutions are only for junior security analysts, or they're only for more senior security analysts because they need you still need the security expertise to really like make sure that you're asking the right questions and that you're getting correct results. And we did really detailed surveying of the 100+ customers that used Purple during the beta, and we saw relatively equal value be conveyed to both junior and senior security analysts. With the junior analysts, what they found was that Purple just helped them actually ask the initial question, and that over the course of the beta period, they actually began to understand our query language better because we would show the work. We would show how Purple translated their natural language query to our structured query language. And then that learning process enabled them to ask better questions over the period of the beta. Mm-hmm. Now, with senior analysts, we also even did some internal testing with our our very most experienced query experts, like our principal solution architects that know our query language better than anyone. And we have this thing called a threat ops challenge, which is like a capture the flag challenge. And we pitted our number one principal solution architect against 7 more junior solution architects.
Okay.
The 7 junior solution architects were able to use Purple in the capture flag challenge, and our most senior person didn't. He came in last. Oh. He came in 8 out of 8. And like that was like a real aha moment.
Yeah.
That this is not just for junior analysts. Like this can actually, or this is both for junior and senior analysts in terms of making them more effective.
That's really key when you're trying to just keep all of your analysts, because when you're operating a SOC and you've got level 1 analysts and level 2 analysts and you're trying to give them the right level of work and spread that workload across, that's really difficult to make sure that your higher level analysts aren't doing menial tasks, and that your lower level analysts are empowered so they're not burning out, because SOC burnout and security operations is real. It's a really high pressure kind of area. So giving them the right tools is super key to making sure they're successful, and frankly you can keep those people in your org.
Yeah. I mean, what we found across all of our customers that we surveyed during the beta period, Purple made them about 80% faster in hunting, and hunting was 120% easier. So, the 120% easier, that probably conveys a little bit more to the junior analysts. Sure. And the faster, I think it's applicable in both cases. But if you have a couple minutes, I can sort of show you what I mean by that.
Yeah, we love the visuals.
Yeah, so this is the Squirrel user interface, and Purple is a new place in the SentinelOne console, and this is important. Like, we don't view Purple just as like a chatbot that follows you around in the console. We actually view Purple as like a new AI powered control plane into the platform, where you can do a variety of different activities. Initially focusing on hunting and investigations, but we're adding more and more use cases that cover both security operations and system administration configuration use cases. A really important part of Purple is the idea of notebooks. So like along those same lines of not being just a chatbot, we create like persistent artifacts for how you've interacted with Purple. So if you've done a hunter investigation, you can save that as a notebook. We have this patent pending capability called hunting quick starts. So like we give you example starting points for a hunt, or you can always just type in your question in natural language. So if I want to type in something like show me machines with the most failed logins, like I was talking about earlier, now Purple is like executing that reference architecture that I was talking about. So it's taking that question, it's first looking inside that knowledge base to understand if I have any other similar types of information in the knowledge base that could help me better construct a Power Query to our data lake. But it shows you the translation. So it shows you how it translated that question to our structured query language. It brings back a snippet of the results, the top results from our data lake. And then it summarizes those results. Like, what are the most important things I need to know from that, big set of results? And then lastly, it's showing you the follow-up questions. Okay, here's how you continue your hunter investigation.
Does it give recommendations? And I'm actually taking this question from another show. Somebody was showing something regarding remediations.
Yeah, that's next up. Not part of the GA launch, but that's coming this year.
Cool.
Yeah. And then if I wanted to drill down more specifically, if I want to see a very specific event ID where the login failed, I could do that as well. And this also highlights the summarization capabilities. And it's interesting. I mean, what we saw during the beta is, people were just literally, copying and pasting these summaries from Purple into their tickets, into their incident reports. So if I click on one of these events that came back, it will automatically generate, a nice summary of this event, that highlights, all of the detail that a tier 3 investigator might pull from the event. This is really deep detail that we're pulling into the summary of this individual failed login event. So, we're summarizing things at a bunch of different levels. If you do a query, get back 1,000 log lines, we'll summarize those log lines, but we'll also summarize down into individual events.
Yeah, I mean, there's an incredible amount of detail here. I'm just reading it about the login attempt, the IP address, the username, reasons cited. These are the error that was given to them, the source process. There's an incredible amount of detail. You can really see how it will transform traditional SecOps teams and traditional DevSecOps practices. And at the bottom here, we have a ticker for how people can request a demo from you.
Yeah. We're demoing. We're kicking off proof of concepts as well with folks. So, if you're interested, let us know.
Last question. When are you going live? When's your GA?
Well, you know the rule about that. I will say it's imminent.
I had to ask, though. Right?
I will say it's imminent. That's probably as much as I should talk about in a public webinar where I'm sure our competitors are lurking.
There's no rules. It's just the three of us. It's a private.
Awesome.
Eli, thank you very much for talking to us today, and thank you very much for the demo. It was really cool.
Cool. Thank you for having us.
It was great fun.
Now I get to say I spoke to Eli Khan.
Thank you for having us, myself and Purple, on the show.